Subscribe to James the Sheriff Dixon, you motherfuckers.
Alright, this is Fun Times with the Sheriff, episode 7. And I'm here with Aria. You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Gray. I am a Twitch streamer and a mom. I live in Western New York, and I do stuff.
Alright, so today we're going to talk about fantasy films. So, you want to lead off with Lord of the Rings and then go from there?
Sure.
Alright, so my favorite one of those movies is the second one, because of all the choreographed fight scenes and all that.
Right, that's the Two Towers.
Yep, that's the one where the guy who plays Count Dooku, I forget his actor's name. That's the one where
Christopher Lee.
Yeah, that's the one where his character dies in that one. Spoilers if you haven't seen it.
Right.
But yeah, that's my favorite one. The battles ramp up from there into the third one, pretty much.
Have you read the books?
Oh no, I haven't read. The only books that I've read were the Hobbit ones, which I read back in high school.
Well, there's another movie we can talk about, The Hobbit. Ugh. When I think of Lord of the Rings movies or Tolkien movies, I don't tend to include The Hobbit in there because it was so bad. Hot take.
I remember when it was a big deal when they did the first one. I was back in high school when the first three of them, when those all came out.
I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies were terrific.
Yeah.
They were done on a way smaller budget than they could have been done on. They did a lot of really good things for people who live in New Zealand. You know, people who filmed there.
Mm-hmm.
They were very well done movies. And then compared to how
The
disastrous
The
Hobbit was,
which is all pretty much like
plagued from problems from the beginning.
Yeah. The Hobbits were like all like a lot of them I heard were like green screen compared to like Lord of the Rings, where they like actually went to the places to film them. Like
they did. I know that they did a lot more green screen in the Hobbit than they did in the Lord of the Rings. One thing that I know that they did with the Hobbit was that a lot of the characters were CG as opposed to having actors in makeup.
Yeah, actual like the actual people there. Yeah.
Here's one that blows my mind. So this would have been in the last Hobbit movie.
The Five Armies.
Right. There's a scene where there's some dwarf that rides up on a war pig or whatever. He like comes up over the crest of the hill, and he's so obviously CG. It's painful.
Oh, you're talking about the goat when they're riding the goats?
Right, the goat. So here's the mind-blowing part of that. They had an actual actor who was decked out in all of the practical makeup. They had a guy that looked just like all the other dwarves in the movie. They had a guy. They filmed it, but they didn't use him. They went with that awful CG.
Oh my god.
And nobody really knows why. And
so they
I guess
had a scene ready. They just did not put that. They didn't even have the option on the DVD for that scene.
I don't know. I would not buy the DVD. We saw it in theaters, and that's the only time I will see it is because we spent the money on it there, and that's it. I will not spend any more money on that movie.
I remember.
Or time.
I remember seeing the fifth one in theaters, and yeah.
Well, here's the really messed up thing about The Hobbit as opposed to The Lord of the Rings. So The Lord of the Rings brought a lot of income, and this is as far as I know. I don't live in New Zealand. I don't know anybody there.
For tourism, right? Yeah.
Right, but this is from things that I've read and stuff like that. Well, not only from tourism, but also just from, the Weta Workshop and, just the money that it brought in. Kind of putting New Zealand up on the map as a viable location to film movies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what The Hobbit came in and did was they basically took all of that and they trashed it. They were able to get laws changed. I think Warner was the studio for that, but they were actually able to get laws changed in New Zealand that were bad for workers They were like bad for the actors' unions and stuff, but were beneficial to the studio because, of course, you know.
Yeah.
And like the actors, the New Zealand native actors, a lot of the dwarves were New Zealand natives. They weren't even originally invited to the premiere of the movie in Hollywood.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
Right. They one of the guys had to post on Twitter, like, oh yeah, we weren't invited, and some exec from the studio contacted him and was like, hey, well, can you take this tweet down? And he's like, no, fuck off. I'm not taking this tweet down because it's true. And then next thing you know, they were all invited with like all expenses paid, which is how it should have been from the beginning.
Yeah, from the beginning. Also, it's Bilbo, right? That's the Hobbit, not the.
Bilbo's the Hobbit, yes.
Yeah,
from
so
the Hobbit.
in the first one he's there, but like in the second one he gradually becomes like a background character when the dwarf story arc takes over, which I had a problem with because it's in the book he's more of a main character.
First of all, there's no reason that. I mean, that book is so short. It was
and they stretched it into
a children's book.
Yeah, they stretched it into
three
hours. Yeah, 3 hours each into 3 movies.
Right, like when J.R.R. Tolkien wrote that book, he actually wrote it for his kids. It was written as a children's book.
That's something I heard. Yeah.
Right, like somehow they were able to condense this massive epic that was The Lord of the Rings into 3, 2.5-hour movies. But then they took one, 150-page book and somehow stretched it to over, to 3 2.5-hour movies?
Yeah, they're like
basically
almost
the
3
same
hours
runtime as Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, they were almost like 3 hours each for all 3 of them, and yeah.
And then the love story. Oh my god.
Well, between the dwarf and the elf.
What the fucking actual was that? That was.
That was just tagged on in the end of the second one.
Pandering and so just ugh,
Legolas was. I know that Legolas was just thrown in there just because they wanted the fan service for Orlando Bloom.
Pretty much. Yeah, the whole just thing was messed up and just bad, and it's just unfortunate because it's one of those things where. Kind of harkening this to video games, one of my favorite video games is Chrono Trigger, and I have attempted to play the PC version of it that's on Steam, and it's just bad. Even after, they did all these bug fixes and shit, even after all that, it's still just bad. And I wrote a Steam review about it, and in the Steam review, I wrote down the problems that I had because I had been trying to stream it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I put in there was that I hope that if this is your first time playing Chrono Trigger, do not judge the game by this port because it's bad. It's just bad. Mm-hmm. I hope that anybody whose first experience with Chrono Trigger, because it is one of the best games ever made, basically just Google top 10 best games ever made, and I can almost guarantee you that Chrono Trigger will be within the top 5 on that list.
Mm-hmm.
In most people's list. It is a terrific game, and it would be a shame to judge the game by that bad port. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the same with The Hobbit. It would be a shame for anybody to judge J.R.R. Tolkien or The Hobbit itself by the standards that disastrous movie franchise set. It would be a shame. So, it's if any listeners out there, if you have not, and I understand if you've tried to read The Lord of the Rings, it is a hard read. It takes work to read that book or that trilogy.
Yeah, it's like a real, it's like as thick as the one that Bilbo was writing in the very first movie.
Right. But it's the language in the book.
I've heard the language is I heard the language is real difficult. And...
You could kind of compare it a little bit to reading the Bible. It's not quite as flowery. The Silmarillion, which is another Tolkien book that's connected to The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It's like, the Silmarillion is basically the Bible of Middle-earth. I guess that would be the most simplistic way to put it.
Okay.
But the Lord of the Rings trilogy it's got very flowery, very sometimes convoluted language, because that's how.
Oh yeah, some of it's all made up too, like the Elven talk and yeah.
Right. Well, Tolkien was a linguist. He actually studied and created languages as a job.
Mm-hmm.
He was a linguist at Oxford, or I don't know, some college over in the UK somewhere, or Great Britain. But so the Lord of the Rings is difficult to read. However, The Hobbit, like I mentioned before, he wrote it for kids.
Yeah, I know that was easy. Again, like I said, I read that in high school. That was like easy, like couple of weeks. We got through that.
Right. If you're a faster reader, you could knock that out easily in an afternoon. I'm not sure exactly how many pages it is. I think it is usually around 150.
Yeah, I think it was. It was like paperback then.
Oh well, yeah. It's of course it's going to be paperback. But it's a very, very casual read. So if you've not read The Hobbit, I highly, highly recommend reading it. Especially if you are unfortunate to have seen
those movies.
The Hobbit.
Well, I think Gandalf's story.
The book is nothing. The book is so different from the movies.
I think that Gandalf's story is probably one of the only good ones in that movie.
So some of the parts of the movie, they're accurate as far as the main story, but then you have shit like the freaking romance between Fili and what's her face. And by the way, she wasn't even a character in the book.
Yeah, they made her up because she's part of Legolas's clan.
Right, but she wasn't actually a character in the book.
Yeah.
She wasn't somebody that had anything to do with it.
Totally made up.
Right, and
she wasn't even in Lord of the Rings. They did it. She wasn't even in Lord of the Rings either.
Right, but I understand why they did it, right? Because when you look at the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, just the books even, you kind of tend to notice a trend, and it's one of those things where you kind of have to look at when the books are written. You have to look at the person who wrote them, but there's only one strong female, well, maybe two, I guess, if you want to. I'm sorry, James. I keep hearing an echo. I think of myself, and it's
an echo.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's.
Oh, I have you on speaker.
Oh, it is. That must be what it is then. It's fine. Never mind. But there aren't really many strong female characters in either book. In The Hobbit, there are none. I don't remember Galadriel even making an appearance in The Hobbit. I can't recall that she does, actually in the book. Mm-hmm. Now, in The Lord of the Rings, you have Arwen, who doesn't really do anything at all. There's a bit that you can read if you have, certain editions of the book that details, Aragorn and Arwen's, love affair and all that stuff. But Arwen doesn't really, have a part. Éowyn has a small part. Éowyn does end up killing one of the ring wraiths, she does in the movie. That does actually happen in the book.
Yep.
Other than that, the only female character that really does anything is Galadriel.
Yeah, the female elf witch.
Right. So I get why they made what was her name?
The one that's the one we've been talking.
Hobbit.
Yeah, I forget her name too.
I'll look it up. But I kind of get why they put her in there. But it still rings so. Her name is Tariel.
Oh.
Her character rings so hollow. It felt. You always hear people talking about shoehorning in characters or shoehorning in themes and stuff.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
That was the definition of that.
X-Men does that all the time.
It felt so forced, and it was just it felt so pandering to me. Ugh. It was not it was not a pleasant experience. And the first Hobbit wasn't bad. We saw all three of them in theaters. The first one wasn't bad.
Mm.
The second one was.
That's the Desolation of Smog is the second one.
Right. Speaking of that, have you ever seen Benedict Cumberbatch's? Have you ever seen him in the mocap suit?
Oh yeah, I like watching those like video compilations of like he likes to play in movies that he's the hero and like the villain of.
Right, but have you seen him like actual footage of him in the mocap suit when he was like doing like the voiceover work for Smog?
Crawling around and stuff on the
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's amazing. Benedict Cumberbatch is definitely the highlight of it. Now, like, if you want to distill it down into specific actors' performances, a lot of the performances were really good.
I love Aragorn and Aragorn's performance in the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, of course, yeah. What's his name? Viggo Mortensen. He's usually good in anything he's in. I think the best performance he's given is in Lord of the Rings. I'm kind of surprised my boyfriend hasn't come bursting in the room yet because one of his favorite things of all. No, I'm not even kidding. Like Lord of the Rings, he loves the Lord of. I mean, this man cries when we watch Lord of the Rings. He's seen it 1,000 times and he will still get teary-eyed.
Mm.
He loves it. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't burst. He probably is standing out there wanting to do that, wanting to burst down the door and give his opinion. He loves Aragorn's character. He thought was fantastic, and I agree.
And then Christopher Lee, can't forget about that.
Of course. And then freaking, oh my god, the guy that played Gandalf.
Gandalf.
Jesus.
Yeah, I can't think of his name either.
I know he's best friends with Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
I'm gonna find it right now. It's Ian McKellen.
Oh yep. I know he's in a bunch of stuff too.
Oh yeah, Ian McKellen is he's a damn treasure.
Oh, he has Sir in front of his name. He's a knight.
Oh yeah, he is a knight. He was knighted by the Queen. But anyways, there's kind of an interesting little tidbit about the Lord of the Rings. And this was in the Two Towers. So you know the scene when Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn are tailing the orcs that have Merry and Pippin?
Oh yeah, when they're following them through the forest, yeah.
Right. So remember the part where they find the bonfire. And Aragorn's looking for the hobbits, and he kicks the helmet, and he screams and falls to his knees. Mm-hmm. That take.
Oh yeah, I heard that take was real.
He broke his foot,
and he kept acting. Yeah, I've heard about that. That one was real.
And that was the take. Yeah, that was the take that ended up in the film, because and I guess like Peter Jackson had him do it 4 times prior, and I guess he thought, well, he's getting closer to what I want every time. I'm going to let him do it one more time, and I bet you he'll get there. And so he broke his foot, and he...
At least they kept it in on, like, the Hobbit.
Right. There was another injury on... this scene took place in The Fellowship. It's when Frodo left The Fellowship, and Sam went after him. When Sam went into the water, I guess divers had gone in there and searched for broken glass and stuff that they missed. Oh,
so he stepped on one of the
the river, right? Samwise's actor, Sean Astin.
Sam is probably
ended up.
Oh, that's to say. Yeah. Sam is probably one of my favorites as well in that entire movie.
Sam is the best character in The Lord of the Rings.
Does not get possessed by the ring. At one point, he almost does, but resists it.
The whole thing would have failed without Sam. Because Sam literally carried Frodo
to the mountain.
To the top of the mountain. Like, the whole thing would have failed without Sam. But, so Sam, his character, Sean Astin, ended up getting, like, I think he needed, like, I don't know, 10 or 20 stitches or some shit like that.
For the glass in his foot?
Because he cut it so bad.
Wow. How much glass did they miss?
Well, I mean, I saw this on, like, it was, like, on a DVD extra thing. I don't think that scene ended up in the movie. But he also kept acting. He acted until the scene was done. And then he came limping out of the river with just blood everywhere.
Wow. That's one thing I gotta respect for those actors in the Lord of the Rings, is that I did hear a lot about all the mishaps like that, and they just kept going right on through until the scene was done.
I mean, you see that with any professional actor. Like, it's the number of injuries that happen on set that I've just that I've read of, and I don't typically go out of my way to learn anything about them, but acting is not, I don't think, as easy as a lot of people think it is.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's certainly, I don't think that any actor should be paid as much as most of them are.
Well, yeah.
Not when we have teachers that are having to, like, buy their own fucking classroom supplies.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have, like, some TV actors
some TV actors get paid like millions, and that I think is kind of high.
Right. Well, I mean, I also think the same thing with sports. You know, like I was saying, we have actors, or we have teachers that have to buy their own school supplies. We have doctors that, you know, can't get personal protective gear. Mm-hmm. You know, during this coronavirus bullshit, but then you've got assholes like freaking Ninja, or just name an actor, or name an athlete that makes like multi-millions of dollars. I think that's sad, but you know,
like the only thing, like, because I'm super into this, the only thing I can think of is like the top Walking Dead cast members, like 500,000 to like $1 million per episode or something like that each season.
Insane. That's insane. God, and like,
that's just the reoccurring characters. I don't know about the like background people.
They probably don't make shit. Like the you're talking about the extras and stuff, right?
Yeah,
they probably barely make money.
That's not like including the cons and stuff they go to each month either.
It's I think the disparity, and this is kind of getting a little political, but
like I said, it's fine.
Right. It kind of blows my mind. Like, I mean, kind of going down this path a little bit, it just kind of highlights how essential. So, like, I've never seen The Walking Dead. I'm going to be completely honest. Never watched it. I'm not like a big fan of gore, particularly, but I know what it is. That movie or that show and things like it would not be possible without extras.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that show is pretty much built on extras because of all the walkers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But then again, like, I guarantee you that they're probably paid next to nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just kind of goes to show you that, you know, like, any of those main actors technically could be replaced. Any of them could.
The main character did just leave the season, and he was just replaced with like 2 other characters that took over his spot that had been on the show was just as long as him.
Right, but like they can write out any of those characters at any time, and you know, you're still gonna, you know, have potentially a good show. Mm-hmm. But like, you can't, like, yeah, you could try to CG all that shit, but you know, you're gonna get The Hobbit, or it's gonna be way more expensive than it would be to just have live people there in practical makeup.
Yeah, that's when stuff declines, when you have to pay more.
Right, well, but that's the thing. If you didn't fucking pay the main actors as much, you'd be able to pay everybody more, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, I was listening to something earlier about how the top 2 execs for, I think it's for Ubisoft, they, like, the main exec had a salary of $6.5 million, and he got an additional $10 million in bonuses.
Wow.
Now, and then there was the other exec that they didn't mention his salary, but he got an additional $5 or $6 million in bonuses. Now, here's the thing with that. So, games, like, the way that gaming is going, it's unsustainable. You know, like, they can't afford to keep making these massive epic games.
Yeah.
And sell them for $60 where, you know, people expect to get, you know, 20 to 30 hours of
especially
good
with
quality playtime.
people being forced to stay home now too.
Right, but it's not sustainable. You know, making these massive epic games, making The Last of Us or The Last of Us 2 is not sustainable. To sell, you know, and selling it for $60, it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes so much money and so many man hours to make those games that the studios are getting to the point where they can't afford it. Well, also pay your fucking executives less. Take more of that money and put it towards the actual game development. Pay the fucking people that work for you. Hire more people so you don't have crunch. You know, because that's one of the darkest things to come out of gaming recently is crunch. And
yeah,
you know,
and they fire more people, and they fire the people, and then they make the people that they still have work those like double hours and stuff.
Right, because it costs them. It costs them less to hire new people because then you can. You know, you don't have to pay for experience at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You just hire people who, you know, they have this misconception of, oh, well, I want to, you know, I'll do anything to get into the industry. I'll do anything to get this opportunity. And so they, you know, they go work for these gaming companies. Or then you have studios like, and this is kind of going back to movies, but I kind of count it all as the same thing because it's all like digital.
Yeah, it's in the same genre.
Creation.
Yeah.
So remember the Sonic movie? Remember when the first images of the way that Sonic looked
the first Sonic
the internet lost its mind.
Yeah, the trailer, yeah.
Right, so the studio went back and changed it. Do you know that they fired everybody in that studio?
Yeah, they fired all the original like people that made it, yeah.
All of the people that went back and fixed it. So first of all, these people did what they were asked to do. They designed, they did everything what they were told to do. You know, with that ugly-ass first Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
But then they went back and in the space of, 6 months, they completely redesigned it and completely fixed it. And then the entire studio got fired. And the best part is they want to make a Sonic Part 2.
That's ridiculous.
So, but they're only hiring back a few of those people that worked in that was on that original team. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Stuff like that is disgusting, and you see that in video games, you see it in movies. It's just, I guess if you kind of want to get down to where does this all come from, I would say it's all post-capitalist. It's just the way that we do business here in the United States.
Yep.
And yes, I do know that the studio that did Sonic was in Canada, but same difference basically with that.
Yeah, they're right now. Yeah.
I mean, they might as well just be, they're
part of our company
America at this point.
Yep.
But it's really unfortunate when you have these massive studios like Warner Brothers or Ubisoft, or any, just name a studio that just completely ruin things, or you have these people that make millions and millions of dollars, whereas the people who are actually doing the work don't make anything. Jeff Bezos is a good example of that. Jeff Bezos isn't worth anything. I mean, he's worth billions of dollars, but the only reason he has all that money is because
all the warehouses
profits. Right, he profits off of the labor of people that work for Amazon. He makes $127,000 per second, or per minute, or something like that.
Like a minute. Yeah, he makes something like a average person's salary, like a minute.
Yeah, it's insane, and
he could give away half of his money, and he would still be the same amount.
He could buy every homeless person in the United States a house, and it wouldn't make a dent in his wealth.
He would just be back to being that same amount again in a half hour.
But the best part is that Amazon doesn't fucking pay sales tax, or they don't pay any taxes to the government.
That's just like
so
just like a church.
I do, right? You pay taxes. I pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that works pays taxes, but Amazon doesn't. Think about that.
Yeah, they're trying to do that church write-off thing.
Well, no, they don't even have to do that. That's a whole other topic right there. Is whether or not churches should fucking have to pay taxes. I think they should. But no, that's not even, they don't even have to do that. They just don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to claim religious exemptions or anything. They just don't have to. And so, like, whenever you hear, like, people lobbying for, universal health care or whatever, and you hear politicians say, oh, no, that's too expensive, they're fucking lying. Because, like, recently with, all this COVID shit, the Federal Reserve pumped $1.2 trillion
Oh, yeah.
into the economy to try to get, to try to stop...
Bounce it back up, yeah.
Right, to try to stop the economy from hemorrhaging. It didn't work. So, like, anytime that they tell you that universal health care is too expensive, they're lying. They just fucking shit out $1.2 trillion without a second thought because that's what rich people wanted.
Yeah. The
anyways,
rich people don't want to suffer, yeah.
Way off topic. Sorry about that.
it's okay. Not the first time this would have went off topic. Did you want to bring up the second part of the movie thing?
It's up to you. You, like I said, this is your rodeo. Just
lead
this clown wherever you want.
Yeah. So speaking, like, there were several when we talked about Lord of the Rings, it just kept bringing up about multiple connections to, like, the Harry Potter thing.
Right, J.K. Rowling.
Mm-hmm.
The TERF herself. So, for those of you who are not aware, TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. What that means is a TERF is a person who does not believe that transgender people should be recognized as their preferred gender.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make sense. And here's why. So, feminists usually irritate me. And I consider myself one. So many feminists don't necessarily want equality between genders. They want feminine superiority.
Mm-hmm.
It's so frustrating. They see, like, their version of, and I use air quotes here, equality is, subjugating men.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a TERF is somebody who, they're transphobic, basically.
Yeah.
And to me, any group that would exclude another group that has been historically disenfranchised or historically oppressed, any group who would take another group and look at another group that has suffered throughout history and, like, treat them like shit, how does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
If I'm part of a group, I'm a woman. I'm a cisgender white female, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only oppression I've ever really had to deal with is being poor and female. I haven't had to deal with, racial inequality. I haven't had to deal with any discrimination because of my gender identity or my orientation. But if I looked at a black person and I said, no, fuck you, I'm not going to help you out, I'm just in it for me, how counterproductive is that? So instead of, like, getting our two groups together and helping each other out.
Yeah, fighting against each other, yeah.
Right. We, like, try to exclude each other. It's just fucking ridiculous. And then just the fact that, like, it irritates me so much because Harry Potter, to me, like, and I've thought a lot about this. I have, and I'm not going to specify who or anything, but in my very close, immediate family, I have somebody who is transgender.
Mm-hmm.
So this topic is personal to me. Not personal as in, it's me directly, but it's personal as in it's somebody in my very, very close family who has to deal with these things. And to me, like, Harry Potter, the book started coming out when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I love Harry Potter.
A lot of my family members do too. Like my mom read like all the books when they all came out as well.
Right, Harry Potter has been very formative to so many people, and to go and read these things about J.K. Rowling, it's kind of heartbreaking. And like there's a discussion to be had regarding J.K. Rowling. Of Death of the Author. Do you know what Death of the Author is?
No.
Okay, so Death of the Author is a concept that basically says that once an author puts a work out into the public, then it no longer belongs just to the author.
I've heard.
And it also it's kind of a thing where once it's released,
it's out there.
Right, and
yeah, I've heard of sayings like that.
People can interpret it the way that they want to.
Yeah, I've heard of sayings like that. I just didn't know it was like I've heard of that before. Yeah, it's like the Rick and Morty fan base with all the bad fans and their good fans and whatnot. It's like that.
Wait, that's more of a fan base just being shitty and ruining something. Whereas Death of the Author, a really good example of Death of the Author is Kevin Spacey. So, like, Kevin Spacey, a terrific actor, but he's done some abhorrent shit.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, like, because my boyfriend and I used to fucking watch House of Cards. We haven't finished it because of all the Kevin Spacey shit.
Same here. I'm like, I got like the last 2.5 seasons left. I'm like,
right
on the turf of wanting to finish it, and like,
I mean, like, Kevin Spacey isn't even in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, his wife's the character in the show takes over.
Right, that's as far as I know too. But we haven't really watched anything.
He's still in the season before the last one. That's why
we left off. And sorry for anybody who's watching
House of Cards. House of Cards spoilers.
It's been out for years, so deal with it. We left off. The last thing we watched was right when he got shot.
Oh, I didn't. The last thing I left off was I think the wife was planning on doing the murdering.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know about that. So like, yeah, the last thing we saw was where he there was an assassination attempt on him.
Yeah.
And it was done by the reporter that was what's her face's boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
The reporter from like the very beginning of the show.
Yeah, I know.
So that's how long it's been since we watched it. But so Death of the Author in that case would be, can you separate the actor from their work?
Yeah.
And there's kind of a debate with J.K. Rowling of is it okay to separate J.K. Rowling from what she created? And this is a tough one because J.K. Rowling is still alive.
And none of the actors
still profiting off of this stuff.
Yeah, none of the actors did anything bad either. So it's like, yeah, it's tough.
Oh, well, Daniel Radcliffe, he actually did something that I kind of liked. He, so J.K. Rowling, she just can't shut the fuck up on Twitter. But Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, he tweeted at her, "Trans women are women."
Mm-hmm. I saw that, yeah.
And it's like, fucking hell yeah. But so like this is a case where does Death of the Author work here? And I would say that it would be a lot easier if she had and I'm not hoping that she dies, of course. But this will be something that I think in the future, when she's no longer around, it will be easier for people to answer the question of because she won't necessarily be profiting from Harry Potter anymore. Whereas right now, if you go out and buy a new Harry Potter book
or the movies
or any of the movies, she will profit from it directly. So it's like say J.R.R. Tolkien had written something very controversial or whatever, or said something very controversial, his kids would still profit from you going out and buying a book or the movies, but he wouldn't profit from it directly. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a question of that, and like I'm kind of wrestling with that myself. I have not actually seen any of the Fantastic Beasts movies, I'm not going to now.
Neither have I. I haven't. My family has. I actually haven't seen any of those ones either. I
haven't seen them.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad from just reviews that I've heard. They're just really not great.
Yeah, they're not like I heard like the last one or the last like two. I believe like they're trying to connect it to the Harry Potter series, but like other than that, I'm like if it's not connected to it, like I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch them.
Right. I mean, even if they are, I still won't.
Mm-hmm.
If I plan on buying any of the books, I'll make sure that I get them secondhand.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're a Harry Potter fan, I'm pretty sure they already have multiple copies of the books.
Well, I mean, I used to personally. I used to have a boxed set. I don't anymore, so I don't actually own any of the Harry Potter books right now. But for any of you guys who are fans of Harry Potter, but you don't like what J.K. Rowling is doing, go buy the book secondhand.
And she also goes on like these like crazy tweets about like each character now too.
Oh yeah, see, I don't follow her. I don't pay attention to her.
I don't follow her either. I'm just saying like every now and then I'll like see a crazy tweet about like some character and its name's like this or whatever.
It's like, so you watch internet today. Mm-hmm. Ricky and Elliot are geniuses. They have a saying that it's pretty simple, and it's just shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm. When you're backed up in a corner, don't say anything.
I think some of these people, some of these celebrities who think that their opinions matter, need to just shut the fuck up.
when the public is obviously telling them they don't matter.
Well, it's not that they don't matter. It's just that, like, I mean, this is speaking strictly as a capitalist. You're fucking yourself.
Yeah.
You're screwing yourself over because you're going to alienate people by sharing your, air quote opinion, because your opinion's probably bad. Even if it's not really a bad opinion, it's going to be a bad opinion to somebody.
Yeah, so everybody's opinion's different, yeah.
Right, and, what's the saying? Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one and they all stink.
Yeah.
So, just shut up.
Mm.
I mean, I can't imagine how many people that she's alienated just by, coming out of, with the stance. And here's the thing. So I've talked to, people in my family about this, for a couple of years now. I guess it's good that she's finally coming out as TERF because it's been suspected for a long time.
Mm.
She's always liked tweets that were a little bit questionable, or, she'd say something once in a while, or she'd retweet somebody that was like, that's an interesting opinion to share. But, personally, I think if Harry Potter were a real person, I think he would be appalled.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Right. But I mean if Harry Potter himself were real.
Like from the book, okay.
Right. I think he would be appalled at J.K. Rowling's attitude. I really do. Because Harry Potter was somebody who was ridiculed his entire life for things that he couldn't control. Mm-hmm. So he would have an idea of what it would be like to have to deal with people, with TERFs and shit like that. Yeah. With trans folks and things.
Yeah, he dealt with hate pretty much his entire life. Yeah.
Right. He would have an idea of what it's like to deal with that without being transgender himself. He would have a pretty good idea of it. And I really truly think that if Harry Potter were a real person, he would not be the way that she is, and it breaks my heart that she is that way. I mean, I say break my heart, I guess it's an exaggeration. It makes me sad. It's like, well, I guess everybody has a flaw. Some of our flaws are worse than others, and goddamn, Joe, yours is pretty fucking bad.
Yep.
It's shitty. So I don't recommend to anybody that you support her at all, and that unfortunately means don't buy her books, don't see her movies. And if you insist on it, here's what you do. I know y'all want to see it in the theater, but suck it up and don't.
Yep.
But pirate that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, not to recommend anybody do anything illegal, but also don't support her.
Yeah. There are ways you can find movies. I will not say those ways, but you will find them.
You can edit that out, by the way.
Well, we're about to be at that hour mark almost. Unless there's anything else you want to bring up.
Wear a mask, people. Wear a fucking mask, please. I guess this is a hot take that shouldn't be a hot take. Wear a mask. It's like you have no idea. I get they're uncomfortable to wear, but you don't have any idea who you might come across. And here's the thing: most people that have any like major immune system issues.
I'm one of those. I'm one of those people.
You have immune system problems?
Yep.
Right. Well, I mean, like, you never know who you're going to come across who's like that, or you never know who you're going to come across who has family at home that is immunosuppressed. I mean, I am to a point myself. And, I mean, they're even finding that people, like asymptomatic spreaders, people who have COVID, who actually get it, but really don't have symptoms, they're even finding scar tissue and stuff in their lungs.
Mm-hmm.
They're finding major lung abnormalities in people that never even present as sick. So wear a fucking mask.
Yeah,
and wear it right. Don't be wearing it under your fucking nose.
Yep. And if you have glasses, you can pinch the tip of it and put it underneath your glasses. That's a tip that I learned while going back to work.
Well, yeah. My boyfriend wears glasses. He has to wear a mask. He works for Pepsi distributor, and he has to deal with that shit. You know what he found? I actually found a solution because he'd get foggy glasses.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Take a piece of tissue paper. Well, here, listen. This solves it for him. Get a piece of tissue paper, or toilet paper works, or
any kind of paper towel.
Fold it up and put it over the bridge of your nose under your mask.
Okay.
And it'll filter out. Like, he has to use this all the time to keep his glasses from fogging up. It's the only thing that he's done that works. But wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard. Don't be selfish. We're like, Americans aren't allowed in other countries.
Yep. Because
we're so bad at this corona shit. Think about that for a minute. Like, you have the Trump administration and shit. And I mean, Republicans far before him were so xenophobic about people from, Mexico and stuff coming into the country. Mexico shut their borders to the United States.
Yeah. That's ironic.
That's insane. It's fucking hilarious. They're like, no. Fucking nope, we don't want you here. You guys are sick. You guys are going to come get us sick. Canada, our borders are shut with them. People, like, nobody wants us because, I mean, besides the fact that we're loud and annoying, we're also all now sick.
Mm-hmm.
So wear a mask.
If there's anything you want to promote too, if there's anything you want to promote.
A mask. That's a big thing. You can, if any of you people listening think, God, this person is a colossal asshole, and want to talk about anything, you can find me at twitch.tv/Grey Aria. That's GreyAria.
I'll leave a link down below, Thanks.
Yep. I stream random shit. Right now, I'm almost done with Persona 5 Royal. Pain in the ass. Almost done with it.
Yeah, I drop by every now and then. Not sure what I'll do
next. Yes, James is frequent viewer, which I very much appreciate.
Yep.
I'm almost done with that. Not sure what I'll be doing next, but I stream a variety of things. I do D&D. We try to do that weekly when, schedules allow. But yeah, I love to have debate with people about, like, actual things going on. Debates in good faith where, I'm not just going to, like, cuss you out and shut your argument down without even giving you a second thought, unless you have a bad take. Unless like if you come into my stream like Nazis were right, then yeah, I'm just gonna be like, bitch, get the fuck out of here.
Well, that's like typical stuff to kick people off for.
But that's a debate in bad faith. Like somebody coming in just to talk shit without any actual like point. But yeah, I love talking to people about everything, from science to politics to theology, video games, movies, history, all that stuff. So we're a very diverse group on my stream. We are a bunch of social justice warriors, so particularly if you are in the LGBTQ plus community, or if you are, a person of color, or, non-American, you can absolutely come to my stream and you won't ever, you should never feel like you don't have a place to hang out there without having to worry about that stuff. And if, you come to my stream and that stuff happens, let me know. I want a community where everybody can come and hang out and just be themselves. I'm on Twitter, but nobody is interested in that. I'm not. Nobody should be, but it's the same handle. It's Gray Aria.
Yep.
I don't Facebook or anything like that, so it's mostly Twitch and Twitter sometimes. So, yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll have to have you again for next season.
Oh yeah, you that you're regretting. Like, God damn, this bitch don't shut up. No, I don't.
I don't really regret anything. So.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thanks.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks again. So,
thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm gonna end this call now. Do you want me to call you back after, or? I'm gonna end the podcast. Do you want me to call you back? Yep. All right. Well, that was episode 7, Fun Times with the Sheriff, and yeah, if you like what we've been seeing, please like and subscribe more. Stream saying, peace.
Right. I just want to shout out an amazing channel, James the Sheriff Dixon. Oh, he's such a great guy, and he is super cool for coming to the show. I'm glad I got to meet him in person, and you should subscribe.